All right, everybody, Cinephile Mike is here, and it is episode 18 of Oscar Rewind Season 2, my bi-weekly series of videos dropping every Tuesday and Friday where I revisit films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe rediscover something you haven't seen in a while. I'll be discussing the Oscar connection, awards history for the film, box office information, the critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler free. Now, before we jump in, do me a favor, please click that subscribe button. You definitely want to be part of all the cinematic goodness coming your way this season on Rewind. So, it is May, it is Actor Month here on Rewind, and we are looking at the earlier works of this year's Oscar nominees and winners across the lead and supporting performance categories. Today, I'm looking at Buena Vista Pictures' Summer of Sam, written by Victor Colicchio, Michael Imperioli, and the film's director Spike Lee. The film was released in the summer of 1999, 22 years after the events that the film chronicles after debuting at Cannes. Released in the US with no international box office numbers to share, the film at the end of its domestic and worldwide run, the film made $19,288,130. Critically, this film was a little bit mixed, with 104 critical reviews landing the film exactly at a 50% critical rating and a slightly higher popcorn meter of 60% coming from over 25,000 ratings. Award season wise, the film received a total of 6 nominations. At Cannes, the film was nominated for the Cannes International Confederation of Arts Cinemas Awards, this award being the one that recognizes the best in art house cinema. John Leguizamo was nominated for Outstanding Actor in a Feature Film at the ALMA Awards, the American Latino Media Arts Awards, formerly known as the Latin Oscars, which is a ceremony of awards that will be returning in 2025 for the first time since 2018. Summer of Sam was nominated for Best Film at the Valladolid International Film Festival. It had 2 Black Reel Award nominations for Best Theatrical Director and Best Film Soundtrack, and there was one Worst Supporting Actor nod for the film's director Lee at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. So, where is the film connected to this year, you may ask? Well, while this was not his first film role, it was one that many considered to be his breakout role. This man, as Nikki Glazer so affectionately referred to him at the Golden Globes, as two-time Holocaust survivor, who is now a two-time Oscar winner for surviving those events, Adrian Brody. In fact, I remember seeing this film in theaters in the summer of 99, and this was the first performance of Brody's that I had seen. So this was actually my intro to him. So let's get into the film. We go back to the historical New York City summer of 1977. That summer, New York experienced one of, not the worst, but one of the worst summers on record. Temperatures were at an all time high, with some days clocking in over 100 degrees. Unemployment and poverty levels were on the rise, putting the city in a severe financial crisis. There was a major blackout across the boroughs that lasted for over 24 hours in July. And probably the most scariest of all, David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, was on the loose still, killing innocent people who were sitting in cars. Now, this film is not just about Berkowitz, but more an ensemble film of fictional characters providing this, chapter of life in New York City's history. Primarily, we focus on 2 childhood friends that grew up in this Italian Bronx neighborhood. First up is Vinny, played by John Leguizamo, who is embracing the disco loving times. He is a hairdresser who loves hanging out with his crew, which consists of drug dealer Joey T, played by Michael Rispoli, Anthony, played by Al Palagonia, and Brian, played by Ken Garito. He loves going out and dancing and partying with his wife Diana, played by Mira Sorvino. And also, unfortunately, he has a predilection for extramarital affairs because he kind of sees Diana as his Madonna wife and he can't do, you know, sinful sexual acts with her. So he goes around the neighborhood and sleeps around, including his boss Gloria, played by BB Newirth. And our other key player, his friend, is Richie, played by Adrian Brody, a musician who has come back to the Bronx after a brief stint living in Manhattan, where he has fully embraced the punk rock persona to the spiky, spiky hair, the tight Union Jack t shirts, even to adopting a British accent, which he breaks it when he talks to some people, but otherwise, this is the persona he presents, trying to be Sid Vicious. So he takes up with promiscuous Ruby, played by Jennifer Esposito, the girl who's been around the town. But he, and rightfully so, never treats her as that and actually really sees her as more than just an object, which is what is really a strength for their relationship. And, struggling as a musician as a means to get by, he's constantly begging for money off of his mother, played by Patti LuPone, from Vinny. And he dances and prostitutes himself at a gay movie theater in the city as a way to make ends meet. Now, as we follow Johnny and Richie, sorry, Vinny and Richie, on their exploits, we also get a glimpse at Berkowitz, who in the film is played by Michael Badalucco, and see what happens as he engages in his activities and how he plays with the police, with the notes, interacts with the dog, if you're familiar with the history. And as Berkowitz commits crime after crime, this neighborhood is in turmoil. And we will see local boss Luigi, played by Ben Gazzara, kind of step up and decide to take actions into his own hands and rile up the boys, including Joey and company, to figure out who the son of Sam is and take proper action, protect the neighborhood. And unfortunately, some of the individuals who come into their crosshairs, which for the most part are people who seem to be any bit different, paints a sign on the backs of certain individuals whom I have spoken about. And we will see as cultures clash and everything that's happening kind of come to a boiling point as we see the ramifications for these characters at the time. So here is the thing about this. Spike Lee has really crafted a unique film, which I actually think was a little bit better on the second watch. Maybe it's because when I first saw this again, it was 1999. This was like 25, 26 years ago. I wasn't looking at films as critically, and I probably got a little too lost in a little bit of how convoluted it is because there's so much going on in this story. So now being a little older, I'm able to follow all of this, and this is a fascinating time in history, one ripe with stories to tell. I think Lee and team took on more than they could chew. Even at a runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes, there's a lot of plots in this. Of them, we have the one surrounding the son of Sam himself, with Berkowitz engaging in his crimes and everything that leads up to his arrest. We have Vinny's storyline, which, in addition to unique connection, putting him in fear of the son of Sam, we have his whole marriage story and his exploits. We have Richie's storyline trying to find acceptance and his family and his relationships. We have Joey T and Luigi trying to, protect the neighborhood, on top of several other smaller ones that are thrown in that I won't get into. Lee in the film plays a reporter who's kind of commenting on things, and he kind of crams in all the other elements like the blackout, the rioting, press coverage of the case. And so you would almost think that this would have worked better. I know in 99, miniseries weren't as big of a thing as they are now, but I think this was maybe ahead of its time in that respect of this really needed like a miniseries to really explore all of it because there's just so much that things get muddled, which is unfortunate because that's what makes this film falter where it could have actually been engaging if we were going to lean one way or the other. So, sometimes that can hinder other elements. And here, look, some of the cast is actually very good in this. Brody actually is the strongest standout amongst the cast. Not just his plotline, but his presence. It seems to be the one that's the most developed, I guess you could say. And he really is a strong presence. He has the most layered character of everyone we see and kind of goes on a journey that posits what could have been if Lee had made a more focused film. Where Brody's Richie goes from the start to the end is the most interesting of all the different subplots that we get in this. You might even say you wouldn't need as much information about Berkowitz because so much of that is in the common collective understanding that we don't need that for the film. We just want to see how people are engaging in that time. And along with Richie, I have to say, is a very good but underused Esposito. She kind of gets sidelined again because of everything that we're trying to cram in. But the two of them had really good chemistry, and their performances really are, the enjoyable ones out of the whole collective. The thing that really works for the film, though, even more than that, despite the convoluted script, is the aesthetics that this film has down on lock. You can truly feel the New York of the 70s, whether we see people begging to get in line, begging to get into Studio 54, whether they're having, block parties trying to get through the blackout, when you see people lining up outside of CBGB's to be entertained. The soundtrack is a perfect spin of the generation's greatest. Again, I hate to harp on this, but if this film had been more focused, I think it would have been much better. So, look, here's what I'm going to say. For me, the film is a decent 3-star film. There's enough to engage with the 2 hours and 20 minutes. Maybe some plot elements are a little slow, but there are other ones that are good. There are performances that are, excellent, that almost seem like they were brought in from a different film. Brody, let's talk a minute more about him because, he is the reason why we're here. He has shown his staying power. And, while he wasn't my pick for Best Actor this year, he was good in The Brutalist. I recognize, the great work he's done. He was exceptional in The Pianist and, a lot of other films that I've seen him do. So, you know, hats off to you, Adrian Brody. We'll see you. Just maybe, please, not another Holocaust film. Move on. Look, if you would like to watch The Summer of Sam, right now your only option is to rent or purchase it on most digital platforms. As of this recording and posting, there is no streaming information available. And there you have it. If you like what you heard, please click that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, bring people into the conversation. As always, you can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Find lots of great additional content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right. Until next time, everyone, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.